All right, so today we're going to be looking into some really interesting research on this new way to combat misinformation.
Yeah.
You sent over a whole bunch of articles and
Right.
studies on this method called bypassing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a totally different approach from just, the usual fact-checking, which we all know can just sometimes blow up in our faces.
Yeah, what's fascinating about this is that it acknowledges the limitations of traditional debunking.
Right. Yeah.
Fact-checking oftentimes triggers resistance,
Yeah.
especially when that misinformation aligns with somebody's deeply held beliefs.
Yeah, it's like trying to convince your uncle that his favorite conspiracy theory is wrong.
Right.
Like, you're more likely to just start a family feud than to actually change his mind.
Exactly. And the research even suggests that just flat out correcting misinformation can sometimes backfire and make that false information even stickier in people's minds,
Yeah.
almost as if the correction itself reinforces the memory of the misinformation.
That's wild. So it's like counterintuitive. It seems like it would work the opposite way.
Yeah, well, think about it this way. Our beliefs are often intertwined with their identity, our values, our social groups.
Right.
So when somebody challenges our beliefs, it can feel like a personal attack.
Yeah.
And that triggers a defensive reaction, and then we cling even tighter to our existing beliefs.
Okay, so how does this bypassing sidestep that whole defensiveness trap?
So instead of directly refuting the misinformation, bypassing aims to shift the focus toward alternative beliefs that have opposite implications.
Right.
It's almost like planting a seed of doubt without directly attacking the misinformation head on.
Yeah, it's like offering a different path without forcing someone to admit that they were wrong in the first place.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The idea is to introduce this positive counter-argument that subtly guides the listener toward a different conclusion.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Okay.
Can you give me like a real-world example?
Sure. So let's say someone claims that GMOs are dangerous. A bypassing response might be, GMOs have the potential to address global hunger by increasing crop yields and improving nutritional content.
Okay, so you're not denying the initial claim about danger, but you're introducing a positive counterpoint that just reframes the entire GMO conversation.
Exactly. And this approach, according to research from the Annenberg Public Policy Center, has been shown to be surprisingly effective. They conducted 6 experiments comparing bypassing to traditional fact-checking on topics like GMOs, 5G, and vaccines.
Okay.
The results consistently showed that bypassing was better at improving people's attitudes toward these topics.
Okay, now the million-dollar question. Why does bypassing work so well? Is it just that people are more receptive to positive messages?
Well, it's a little more nuanced than that.
Okay.
Bypassing really leverages the fact that our minds can actually hold multiple beliefs simultaneously.
Okay.
And these beliefs then influence our attitudes and ultimately our actions.
So by emphasizing a positive belief that contradicts the misinformation, you're essentially tipping the scales in favor of a more accurate understanding.
Precisely.
Okay.
The goal isn't to erase the misinformation entirely,
Yeah.
but to introduce a stronger, more compelling belief that pulls them in a different direction.
It's like shining a light on a different path, making it more attractive to follow.
That's a great analogy. And interestingly, the research suggests that bypassing is especially potent when people have formed beliefs rather than attitudes.
Okay, hold on. Can we break down the difference between beliefs and attitudes?
Sure. So imagine somebody believes that electric cars are too expensive.
Okay.
That's a belief.
Yeah.
But they haven't yet formed a strong negative attitude toward them, meaning they're not completely opposed to the idea.
Right.
In this scenario, bypassing might be more effective than just trying to correct their belief about the cost.
Because their attitude hasn't solidified into resistance yet.
Exactly.
Okay.
Attitudes act like these anchors in our minds, making us resistant to change.
Right.
But if you can introduce a positive belief before a strong negative attitude takes hold, you have a better chance of shaping their overall perspective.
So it's like catching the misinformation early on before it digs in its heels.
Exactly. Bypassing offers a way to gently redirect somebody's thinking before their attitude becomes entrenched.
This is fascinating stuff. It seems like bypassing could be applied to all sorts of situations.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about how I can use this in my own life.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Bypassing can be a valuable tool for navigating conversations with family friends, colleagues, or even strangers online. It just provides this more nuanced and less confrontational way to address misinformation.
So for all of you listening out there, keep those dinner table debates and online comment sections in mind.
Yeah.
Bypassing could be your secret weapon for promoting a more accurate and less divisive world.
That's right. In our next segment, we'll explore how to actually put bypassing into practice. We'll delve into specific techniques and strategies that you can use in your own life, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into bypassing.
Mm-hmm.
We've covered a lot of ground so far,
Yeah.
but now it's time to get practical.
Well,
I want to actually learn how to use this technique in my own life.
Okay, so let's dive into the how-to of bypassing.
Okay.
So remember, it's about strategically shifting the focus away from the misinformation
Right.
and towards these alternative beliefs that lead to more accurate conclusions.
So it's almost like a mental judo move, using the momentum of the misinformation
Exactly.
to kind of redirect the conversation.
Yeah, the first step is just identifying the specific misinformation that's being presented.
Yeah.
Once you've pinpointed that, think about what's the opposite implication?
Okay.
What positive counterargument can you offer that subtly challenges the misinformation
Right.
without directly confronting it?
So if someone says vaccines cause autism, you wouldn't engage in a debate about that debunked study that fueled that whole myth.
Right. Instead, you might focus on the vast body of scientific evidence demonstrating the safety and efficacy of vaccines.
Right.
You could say something like, vaccines have saved millions of lives and continue to protect us from deadly diseases.
Okay, so that shifts the focus towards the overwhelming positive impact of vaccines.
Right.
Without getting bogged down in a debate about a long disproven claim.
Precisely. It's about choosing your battles strategically.
Yeah.
And recognizing that sometimes the most effective approach is to just bypass the misinformation entirely.
That makes a lot of sense, but how do we make sure that our counter arguments are both compelling and accurate?
Yeah, that's where critical thinking comes in.
Right.
It's essential to rely on credible sources of information.
Of course.
And to ensure that your counter arguments are grounded in evidence.
We don't want to accidentally spread misinformation ourselves in the process of trying to combat it.
Right. Another important technique is to incorporate storytelling into your bypassing strategy. People are naturally drawn to narratives.
Right.
Stories just have this way of capturing our attention and making information more memorable and relatable.
It's the age-old power of storytelling.
Exactly.
A well-crafted narrative can stay with us long after the facts and figures have faded away.
Precisely so. Instead of simply stating that climate change is real, you might share a personal story about how rising sea levels are impacting coastal communities.
Or you could highlight the work of scientists who are developing innovative solutions to mitigate climate change.
Those are great examples.
Yeah.
By weaving information into these compelling narratives, you just make it more engaging and impactful.
So it's about appealing to both the head and the heart.
Exactly. Now let's move on to some specific strategies for implementing bypassing in different situations. Okay. One effective approach is to find common ground with the person you're talking to.
Right.
Even if you disagree with their beliefs,
Yeah.
there's almost always some shared value or goal that you can start with.
It's like building a bridge instead of digging a trench.
Precisely. For example, if you're talking to someone who is skeptical of renewable energy,
Okay.
you might start by acknowledging their concerns about cost or reliability.
You could say something like, I understand that you're worried about the affordability of switching to solar power, and that's a valid concern.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I told you that the cost of solar has plummeted in recent years and that it's now more affordable than ever before?
That's a great example.
Yeah.
By acknowledging their concerns and then offering a counterpoint that addresses those concerns directly, you create a more receptive environment for dialogue.
So it's about meeting people where they are
Exactly.
and building trust through empathy and understanding.
Exactly. And from there, you can gradually shift the focus towards the benefits of renewable energy, such as its environmental sustainability and potential for job creation.
So bypassing isn't about lecturing or trying to force someone to change their mind.
Right.
It's about gently nudging them towards a more informed perspective through thoughtful conversation and compelling storytelling.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that people are complex.
Yeah.
And that changing beliefs takes time, patience, and a willingness to listen.
That's a valuable reminder in our increasingly polarized world.
Yeah.
But what about those situations where someone is just deeply entrenched in their beliefs?
Right.
Can bypassing still be effective in those cases?
That's a great question, and it's one that researchers are still exploring.
Okay.
While bypassing may not lead to immediate conversion in those cases, it can still plant seeds of doubt and open up a space for critical thinking.
So it's about chipping away at the misinformation rather than trying to demolish it all at once.
Exactly, and sometimes simply Introducing an alternative perspective can be enough to spark a shift in thinking down the road.
Hmm.
Remember, bypassing is a long game.
Yeah.
It's about planting seeds that may not blossom overnight,
Right.
but can eventually lead to a more informed and accurate understanding.
So for all of you out there who are feeling discouraged by the spread of misinformation, don't give up hope.
Yeah.
Bypassing offers a powerful tool for promoting truth and understanding, one conversation at a time.
In our next segment, we'll explore the potential pitfalls of bypassing and how to avoid them.
Okay.
We'll also discuss the ethical considerations of using this technique, so stay tuned.
We're back for the final part of our deep dive into bypassing. We've learned how it works, why it's effective, and we've even gotten some practical tips on using it.
Right.
But before we wrap up, I'm curious to explore the bigger picture here.
Okay.
Could bypassing have implications that go beyond just like individual conversations?
Absolutely. Bypassing can influence public discourse and even help shape policies.
That's exciting. So it sounds like bypassing could be a powerful tool for science communicators, policymakers, and just anyone really who's trying to promote evidence-based decision-making.
Think about like the challenges of communicating complex scientific topics like climate change.
Right.
Or the benefits of vaccines.
Right.
Bypassing allows us to make these topics more accessible and relatable without sacrificing accuracy or oversimplifying.
So instead of getting bogged down in all that technical jargon, we can focus on like tangible benefits that resonate with people's everyday lives.
Precisely. For example, you could highlight the economic benefits of transitioning to renewable energy, or the role that vaccines play in protecting vulnerable populations.
So it's about connecting the dots between the scientific evidence and people's values and aspirations.
Exactly. And as we discussed before, storytelling plays a crucial role in this process.
Right.
Narratives just have this unique power to engage people emotionally and make information more memorable.
Yeah, it's one thing to cite statistics about rising sea levels,
Right.
but it's quite another to hear a firsthand account from someone whose community is already experiencing the impacts of climate change.
Precisely, by weaving information into these compelling stories, we make it more real, more relatable, and ultimately more impactful.
It sounds like bypassing could also be applied to the way we design and implement policies.
Absolutely. Instead of just focusing on regulating or restricting harmful behaviors, bypassing encourages us to also incentivize positive actions.
Okay, so it's like offering carrots instead of just wielding sticks.
Exactly. By rewarding positive choices, we can create a system that just kind of nudges people towards making decisions that benefit both themselves and society as a whole.
That's a really interesting perspective. So instead of solely focusing on taxing pollution, we could also offer incentives for adopting clean energy solutions.
Precisely. Or we could incentivize vaccination by highlighting the community benefits of herd immunity.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that people are often motivated by more than just like rational self-interest. Emotions, values, and social influences all play a significant role in our decision-making.
Exactly. By understanding those dynamics, we can design policies that are more effective and have broader public support.
So bypassing isn't just about changing individual minds, it's about creating like a social and political environment that supports evidence-based thinking.
Well said. It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping the information landscape.
Right.
Whether we're scientists, policymakers, or simply engaged citizens, we can use bypassing to foster a more informed and nuanced public discourse.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. I feel like I've gained a whole new toolkit for navigating our increasingly complex information environment.
I'm glad to hear that. Remember, bypassing is more than just a technique.
Yeah.
It's a mindset.
Right.
It's about approaching conversations with curiosity, empathy, and a willingness to see things from different perspectives.
It's about building bridges instead of walls.
Exactly. And in a world that often feels divided and polarized, that's a powerful and much-needed skill.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
You're welcome.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights into the power of bypassing and how you can use it to navigate the complexities of our information age.
Until next time, stay curious and keep those deep dives.